Are you getting bad leads? Is your sales team complaining about the quality of leads you're sending to them? Is your cost per acquisition going up? Is your conversion rate static and going down? These are problems that lead generation website faces. And in today's episode of the podcast, I'm going to be walking you through things you can do to your homepage, your product and services page, your form page, your blog to help you reduce drop-off. All these pages get a lot of drop-off and exit, and that is why your marketing budget is being wasted. That is exactly why your marketing budget is increasing. That is why your cost per acquisition is increasing. So what are the solutions? Let's start with the homepage. To reduce drop-off on your homepage, you need to pay attention to the following elements. The first thing you need to pay attention to is your website logo. Your website logo should communicate your brand. And how does your website logo communicate your brand? Is with your website tagline. It's possible that your website logo doesn't have a tagline. This is a problem. What is a tagline? A tagline is a sentence that communicates your brand. It's a sentence that communicates what you do, how you do it, and how you solve your customer's problem. When your customer gets on your homepage, your logo and your tagline needs to be able to tell them that they are the right place. If you do not have a tagline on your logo, there is a high chance that people might be confused before they even realize they're at the right place. They might think, hang on a minute, I'm at the wrong website, and they go away. That is a problem. So you make sure that your tagline is optimized to be able to communicate your value proposition. The next thing you need to look at on your homepage for you to reduce exit and for you to reduce click away from the homepage is your navigation. Your navigation needs to get people from your homepage to your form page in less than 3 clicks. The more people have to click before they get to your form page, the higher the chance they're going to exit and leave your website. So you want to make sure that your navigation is also clean and simple. In B2B setting, you have different product owners, you have different service people within the organization, and they all have targets. They all want their products to be in the menu. It becomes easily political. So you want to make sure that your menu is simple. What is a menu? The menu is the navigation bar under your logo. When you have your tagline and your logo and your navigation all communicating together, then people will be able to see quickly that they are on the right website. But if your tagline doesn't align with your navigation, it becomes a problem. For example, in the case of Tom Howley, you can see that the tagline and the navigation is totally different. Their tagline is communicating something, and their navigation is showing a broader product range. If you're listening to this podcast on Spotify and Apple, I'm looking at a website called Tom Howley. If you Google Tom Howley in UK, he's a kitchen retailer. I'm using this as a case study here because they're one of the best in class when it comes to luxury B2B kitchen retailers. So the important thing you need to understand is the navigation needs to be simple. The more options you have for a navigation on your B2B website, the more confusion you cause to people. They're going to be confused and they're going to leave. Clean navigation will reduce drop-off. And below your navigation, you have your image. This image is the above the fold image. For every website, there's always an image. Some websites don't have images above the fold, but it is recommended that you have at least an image or a video content above the fold. There are 3 types of content. You have text content, you have video content, and you have image. Look at your website, your lead generation website. Imagine that your website does not have any content. It just has the image. Ask yourself the question, what do people think about when they look at that image? Does that image communicate your product? Does it communicate your brand? Does that image communicate to people that they are actually on the right website? If your image does not communicate this, then you need to look at A/B testing different images to make sure that that image that you present to people on your homepage communicates value proposition. If you've never heard about A/B testing, let me explain. A/B testing is a situation where you create 2 versions of your homepage. 50% of the traffic coming to your website will be presented with one version. The other 50% will be presented with another version. And then you would look at how they convert. The version that converts the most with the right image is the version that you will implement. This is how you reduce drop-off on your homepage. The next thing you need to look at, the next element you need to pay attention to is your homepage heading, subheading. Do they communicate value proposition? What exactly is value proposition? Your customer or people that land on your homepage have a problem. They have a pain point. They have questions. They are curious. Are you able to solve that problem? So you can use your homepage heading, the text on the heading, and the subheading to communicate to those people that actually you're in the right website and we're able to solve your problem. You also need to use those heading and subheading to differentiate your brand from the competition. Above the fold, call to action. A call to action is the button people click on websites to do something. So if you're on Amazon, for example, the call to action is the buy button. For B2B lead generation website, your call to action is the click, the CTA that takes people to your form page. That call to action needs to also communicate why people came to your website, the solution you provide. So above the fold call to action means when people land on your website, on your homepage, they should be able to find a button that they can click that would take them to your form page. That button can be present in your navigation in the case of Tom Howley. A navigational CTA is a good way to make sure that across the website, irrespective of what part of the website people are, they will see the call to action above the fold. It's highly recommended. But if you do not have a call to action above the fold or in your navigation, you need to consider and make sure that above the fold, before people start scrolling, that's what above the fold means. When people scroll, then they're going below the fold. But the first thing they see on your website, the very first visibility they see on your website, that's above the fold content, and that's the above the fold section. You need to make sure that there is a call to action, a button that they can click to take them straight to a form where they can fill out the form. There are pros and cons to this as well. Sometimes your above the fold content does not give people enough information for them to click. So if they click quickly without having all the information they need, you stand the risk of getting them to that form page and then they exiting your website. So this is where A/B testing again becomes important. You need to test having your call to action either in the navigation or above the fold or in both locations. When people then scroll down on your homepage, what information do you present to them? Have a look at your homepage and ask yourself the question, after people have landed and scroll, what do they see? In an ideal world, which we don't always live in, you want to present them with another explanation of your navigation. What I'm trying to say here is you want to present them with a product catalog. Your navigation is an explanation of your product listing. The product catalog, when people scroll on your homepage, should be able to explain. It should be another navigation, not navigation necessarily, but another bucket of information that replicates your navigation, but now with more information. And you're trying to convince them if they've not clicked on the navigation, the product catalog is to explain your product and services to them and encourage them to click. That click is to take them to the product page. You do not want to take people straight to a form. They need to have certain information before they proceed. And on your homepage as well, anybody landing on your homepage, some of them don't know you, they don't like you, they don't trust you, they don't know anything about you. But one thing that they will know is if they read content and testimonial from other people that have bought from you, other people that already know, like, and trust you, they would then be convinced that, okay, you are trustworthy. That is the power of review and testimonial. When people are shopping online, because when we meet a new brand that we don't know anything about, we want to vet and verify that they're legit, that they're credible. And that is why it's important look at your homepage. Where do you have your customer review? Where do you have awards and testimonials, things that you're known for? Where do you have information that distinguish you from your competition? So on your homepage, for you to reduce drop-off and exit on your homepage, you need to make sure that you have all these elements present. You need to avoid ignoring your mobile layout. Ask yourself the question, how does your homepage, your website in general, look on mobile? Look at the mobile version of your website. A good example is Tom Howley. If you look at their mobile version, you see that they have a CTA right above the fold, right high up. They have their logo, they have their tagline, and then they have a CTA. And the mobile version of the website is seamless and clean. Make sure that you do not ignore the mobile version of your website. And as you know, people that land on your website and scroll, if you have a CTA above the fold or you have a navigational CTA, you also want to make sure that when they scroll down, they're presented with call to action buttons that they can click to go to a product page or to go to your form page. Again, why I mentioned that people can click to your form page is because when someone lands on your website the first time and they come back again, they're already aware of your brand. They're already aware of your company. In some instances, those people want to fill out the form. You do not want to take them through the hassle of going through the product page before they get to the form. Again, that is where A/B testing comes into play. As I mentioned, the homepage is very political. Everybody wants to be on the homepage. For this reason, your homepage will be heavy. Heavy means your homepage is bound to be slow, if not optimized. And for every delay, for every lag, for every slowness your homepage has, you're going to have conversion problem. The lesser your page loads faster, the lesser the conversion, especially on mobile. So you want to make sure that your homepage loads very, very fast. The faster your homepage loads, the more conversion you're going to get. You can talk to your web development team and make sure that they optimize your page, your homepage for page load time. If you follow all these things that I've listed here, you're bound to reduce bounce rates on your homepage. You're bound to increase click-through rate to your product and your form page. You're bound to reduce your cost per acquisition. Your cost per acquisition is high because people land and don't convert. The more people that land and convert, the lower your cost per acquisition, because you'll be getting more conversion, you'll be getting more revenue, you'll be getting more profit, and that would alleviate the cost of your Google Ads. Another important thing is also the traffic source. I'm going to talk about that later on. Your product or service page will have a very high bounce rate if you do not pay attention to the following. First, as I mentioned, the above the fold content. You need to make sure above the fold you have images, you have videos. If you look at the case of Tom Howley, they have images that explains further what you're going to get. That image reinforces what you're trying to get. A kitchen. If you look at the video as well, they've optimized the above the fold content to have images and video, which is extremely important. They also have a call to action above the fold, which is consistent in the navigation. If your website, product, or service page does not have a call to action above the fold, you need to make sure that you have at least a navigational call to action or a call to action within the above the fold content. When people are then consuming content on your product page or service page, they're looking at your title and your subtitle, which I mentioned earlier on. You also need that on your product page. And the content on your product page should not just push features about things that are good about your product. You need to make sure that you connect the features of your product with the benefits the customer or the target audience will get. If you come from the angle where you're communicating the benefit, the value proposition that they're getting, connecting it to how your product feature solves that pain point, that is a well-optimized product page. And people are bound to stay on that page, consume that content, and then they can then move forward to your form pages. And when you then scroll down, you have the temptation of like, oh, people that bought this product also bought that product. You want to try and cross-sell. You want to put all your products in that page, like some mention of all the products in each product page. That's a recipe for disaster. What I'm trying to say is if you have a product page, the related products or the things that are associated with that product should be things that you want to upsell them. You don't want to put two conflicting, contradictory, different products on a page. What I mean is if a page is about kitchens, for example, you don't want to put a product about rooms and bathrooms on that product page. Because while your organization sells all these products, those products are not the same. They're not in the same category. And if someone is looking to buy a particular product, you want to make sure that you have just related products that are upsells, not cross-sells. And below the fold, people are presented with a call to action button above the fold. But when they start scrolling down, there is that likelihood that there is no call to action below the fold. Tom Howley does a good job by having call to actions below the fold. In some instances, you can have a sticky CTA. What is a sticky CTA? Is a CTA a call to action that moves when people scroll? So if you have a CTA above the fold and when people scroll, it disappears, you have technology on your website that can help that CTA move as people scroll. Again, this is something you can A/B test. And on your product page, people that land sometimes do not know you, they do not like you, they do not trust you. They can read testimonial and reviews about people that already know, like, and trust you. That is the power of reviews. So you can speak to your sales team and other people within your organization to gather testimonials, actual testimonials. Do not gather testimonials that appear too good to be true, because then that again defeats the purpose. You want testimonials that actually communicates what people actually feel in their words, not in your words, on your product page. And this is another thing you need to pay attention to. Do you want to have a form on your product page, or do you want people to fill out the form on your form page? The traffic coming to your product page are people that have consumed information. The traffic sometimes coming to your form page are people possibly that don't have enough information. So the question for you is, do you want to add a form on your product or service page? My recommendation is to A/B test having it or not, because this is a problem with best practice. You cannot apply what works for another website, even your competitor's website, on your website without testing it. Forms on your product page is bound to increase form completion because people will fill out that form without the need to go to your form page. And if you're getting traffic spillage from other parts of your website that arrive on your product page or even your home page, if they are presented with a form, they do not need to click away from that page to fill out that form. Your form page by default will get traffic directly from paid advertising like Google Ads. They will get traffic straight from social media and different traffic sources. But the form page is ideally for someone that understands your organization, or understands your product, and they're actually ready to fill out that form and request a brochure or request a quote or request a demo from your website. If you send people to your form page when they're not ready, then you have a very, very high bounce rate, a very, very high exit. The first thing you need to pay attention as well on your form page to reduce exits and reduce the bounce rate on your form page is your form heading. You do not want to ignore your form heading, and part of your form heading will be like a subtext underneath it. If someone lands on your form, they know about your brand, but they're not ready to fill out the form, your form heading and subheading text need to be able to encourage them to fill that form. If they're still at their research phase, you want to get that form filled, and your text, your value proposition subtext can go a long way to communicate it. Another importance of the form heading and subheading text, in some instances, some forms don't even have a subheading. The subheading would communicate the value proposition. It will encourage them why they're there. And when you're looking at your form layout, you have two options. You can have a single column or a double column form. A single column form is when all the questions are lined up in a single row, just one. A double column form is where you have two rows of questions of form field that people need to fill out. The problem with this is with the 2-column form fields, it's outdated, it's old school. Most B2B lead generation websites, in some instances, will have a single column. A single column form will reduce cognitive overload. And also, that single column form needs to have only the most important questions, the important form field. There is a political problem in some organizations where you have senior stakeholders or different departments that feel they need certain information on the form. You need to keep the number of form fields, the number of questions you ask on your form, to the minimum possible. The more questions you ask on your form, the less likely people are going to complete that form. Take, for example, you meet someone, you're trying to get their phone number, you want to take them out on a date. Do you bombard them with questions, or do you ask them just important questions to get to know them, to get their number? That same principle applies to forms. If you ask people too many questions, they're going to think, hang on a minute, this guy is asking too much questions. They'll leave your form. But if you ask them only the relevant, important information that they feel you need, they're going to fill out that form. So make sure that you only ask questions on your form field that are important. And the address, when your form field has address, if you do not need to ask people for the address, don't put the address field in. But in situation where you want to send them a brochure or you want to send an information to them in their physical address, you need to make sure that your form is optimized in a way where they don't have to manually fill their full address. You want to make sure that the form has something called an autofill form, where they just put their postcode or their zip code and the rest of the information is filled automatically. That reduces the number of efforts that people have to put to fill out the form and encourages and increases form completion. And when people are filling out form on your website, on your B2B lead generation website, they're bound to make mistakes. You want to make sure that the mistakes that they make is highlighted immediately. That way they can correct it. If you wait until they fill out all the form and they click on this call to action, maybe submit or request a demo or request a brochure, and they have to then scroll up, and even if the error is not clear, that's a problem. That will cause them to exit your form. Some forms will have the error highlighted under the form heading where people would not be able to see it. You want to make sure for each form field, the error is highlighted immediately. If you need help optimizing your form, I'm available for coaching and consulting, and I will be able to help you optimize your form to make sure that you increase the quality of leads and the conversion of your form. For you to increase the quality of your form as well, you need to make sure that people trust you. How do they trust you? You need to make sure that you add reviews, testimonials to your form. This does not mean that review and testimonial should become a distraction. You need to make sure that you have trust symbol, badges, awards that you've won visible on your form. And from a distraction perspective, does your form field have navigation bar at the top? The question then is, will people be distracted by the presence of a navigational bar on your form? Does your form field have privacy policy links on them? Does your form field has a CTA in the form that takes them to the same page? These are questions that you need to ask yourself. Your form needs to have very, very low distraction. I'm using the example of trying to get a phone number if you're trying to get someone to date you. You do not want distractions when you're trying to talk to them. You want them to be focused on you. You want to get the number. The same principle applies to your form. You want to remove every distraction that would distract people for completing that form. And your form call to action, there's that generic submit, which is old school. And there's a call to action that communicates reward, that communicates gratification. Request your brochure, request your demo, get your brochure. Those are more CTAs that encourages people, that gives a feeling, an emotion of gratification that I'm about to achieve something here. That is why you also need to A/B test. Some organizations would just have A/B testing for two versions, version A and version B. What this means is you can create two forms. 50% of traffic goes to one form, 50% goes to another form, and you look at the form that performs the better. If you need help testing two versions and creating two versions of a form, reach out to me. I'll be happy to help you create two versions of your form and optimize your website for more conversion. So let's go to the blog section. How do you reduce bounce rate on your blogs? And how do you use your blog and content on your website that is not transactional, like your product page and your form? Your blog page that are educational, how do you get conversions from them? The first thing you need to look at is you need to have a content strategy that addresses your brand and product questions. What does this mean? Most organizations, when I mean most, a lot of organizations don't have a content strategy that looks at pain points and questions. Most blog would ideally be motivated by search, by keywords. But in organizations where I've worked with the sales team to understand their pain points, what the pain points they feel from the customer, what questions the customer have. That should be the basics and the foundation of your content strategy. The number two thing you need to look at is your blog also needs to educate your customer. People that are trying to buy from you, what journey do they always go through? When I mean journey, just look at it outside of your website. In the previous episode of the podcast, I talked about customer journey mapping to increase conversion. This is important because when you get an understanding of the emotions people face through awareness, consideration, purchase, post-purchase, advocacy, that is how you create an educative content and a content strategy. You also want to make sure that your blogs do not stand in isolation. Every blog is a way to get traffic from Google. When people read a blog, they have that temptation to leave. You need to make sure that within those blog content, they are linked to other relevant, interlinking. It's like a team sport. You need to make sure that those blogs are linked together. And you also need to make sure that whilst you can use hyperlinks as a call to action to take people to your forms, you need to make sure that you test the version of an actual call to action versus a link. You can also test your form on your blog. Do you have a form on your blog post where people can fill out the form? And have you tested it with not having a form on it? This is where A/B testing comes into the picture. Again, my name is Femi Olajiga, and I can help you implement A/B testing on your lead generation website to increase conversion, increase form completion. So another thing I like to talk about is your acquisition channel. Do you only have one channel contributing like 90% of the source of your forms? What I mean by this is all the conversions on your website. Is it just one channel that is giving you everything? If that channel is switched off, for example, Google Ads, does that mean you're not going to get any leads? That is one question. So you need to think outside of the box from an acquisition perspective. The quality of your traffic, the quality of your leads is depending on where you're getting them from. If you want to increase conversion, you need to make sure that you diversify your acquisition channel. Organic traffic will reduce your cost per acquisition. The reason why is because when someone arrives to your website through Google Ads, you don't want them to go back again if they do not convert the first time to keep coming back to your website through Google Ads. But if your organic traffic is optimized, video, different channels, Instagram, all these channels, organic traffic will be cheaper and they will serve as assisted conversion. What this means is you can get a traffic the first time through Google Ads. You can make sure that when they arrive, you get their email address. That's integrating email marketing to it. You can then make sure that when they come back, when they search for your brand again, they're not clicking on Google Ads, they're clicking on your organic listing. So all this cross-functional, multi-dimensional traffic acquisition source is an important strategy to reduce cost per acquisition, reduce exit, because if people exit, they can still come back through organic. But if people exit when you're using Google Ads, when they come back, it costs you more money. And that is why I say your cost per acquisition is going up. If you diversify your traffic, then you're bound to have good success. My name is Femi Olajiga. I'm available for a 90-day optimization strategy planning and implementation to identify things on your website that can be improved to increase lead capture, to improve form completion. The most important thing I want you to understand is conversion happens in the mind. There is an element of neuromarketing. There is an element of psychology involved to make sure that you encourage your customers on your website to convert. Again, I can help you form in previous episode of the podcast, I talked about getting information from your sales team to optimize your website, getting voice of the customer from the sales team to use to optimize every page on your lead generation website. I can help you by facilitating that meeting, that customer journey mapping session with your sales team to collect those information and help you integrate that information to building and improving your content strategy on your website. I can also work with your assets team, your photographers, your videographers to make sure that the assets that they're using to get traffic aligns with the content on your website. Like I said, I'm available for a 90-day optimization planning implementation strategy to help you increase conversion on your website. I'm also available for training to train your internal team on SEO, conversion rate optimization, and UX, where you're empowered. You don't have to rely on an agency and tie yourself to a 2-year, 3-year contract with an agency. A 90-day will be enough to upskill, train your team, create a conversion strategy, and implement that strategy. My contact details is in the show notes. Reach out, send me an email, and I'll be happy to help you. And in the next episode of the podcast, I'm going to be talking about growth strategy. I'm going to be talking about digital marketing strategy. Once you have your digital marketing strategy nailed, some of the things that I've talked here is part of the digital marketing strategy that I'm going to be talking about. Follow me on Spotify, on Apple, and if you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.
If you've got a real-life question, challenge, or scenario that you would like covered, Femi can cover it in the future episodes of the podcast. Just drop him a message on LinkedIn. Femi is also available for one-to-one coaching and consultancy services as well. So head over to LinkedIn, connect with him, and send in your message.